Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Lisa Cameron has been forced to leave her house and go into hiding. This is because of all the SNP thugs that have turned up at her house, threatening her, abusing her, chanting, shouting, and making her life misery. Because she dared to leave the party. Simply because she was more concerned about the victims of the sex pest MP Patrick Grady, the toucher-upper of other people's children, rather than of Grady himself. And it goes to show where the priorities of these people lie. The very supporters of the SNP are pro the likes of Grady. No wonder she left. Surprised more haven't. They only have to look to see the treatment meted out by the supporters of the party to see what the party itself is like. You know, they're toxic. Absolutely toxic and bullying. And that, of course, is why she left. So it sort of highlights the issues. Anyway, we'll take a look at the piece, see why she went, see all the details, and see whether anyone else would look at this party with anything other than disdain and disgust. Here goes. So, Tory MP Lisa Cameron and her family are forced to move out of their home due to nasty Nat threats. Sad days for Scotland when a politician and her family are forced out of their home by thugs. And this is what the SNP has done to the country. Aggression, physicality and anger are coupled onto the debate about nationalism. Yeah, because these people are too stupid. They have to use force. They have to use the threats of force because they can't use argument, because there is no argument for their cause. And so when anyone says anything against them, they get very physical, they get threatening, and they get aggressive, because that's all they have. They don't have a brain about it. And so they try and threaten their way past it. Well, I hope that the people who do this take a look in the mirror and see what they are. Tiny penis little ineffectual pricks. Anyway, the former SNP MP who jumped the ship to the Tories has this week been forced to move out of her family home after receiving a barrage of threats from aggrieved nationalists, or pricks as we call them. Lisa Cameron, her husband and two daughters are now staying in a safe house in the countryside. The East Kilbride, Straven and Lesmahago MP announced her bombshell resignation on Thursday, saying that the toxic atmosphere had damaged her mental health. And then comes the irony of having to leave the home because of that toxic atmosphere, because of that bullying, because of those threats. The very reason she left the party has come even, more full circle and gone to her home. Is it any wonder? This has come just days before the SNP conference in Aberdeen. Indeed, it's tomorrow. And ahead of a reselection meeting at which she was facing a likely defeat by party loyalists. They didn't want her anymore because she, refused to kiss the arse of a toucher-upper of other people's children. She, said that Patrick Grady was a nasty little bastard, really, who deserved no sympathy at all, the way he was behaving, and she found it odd that the party would back the perpetrator rather than the victim. I don't find it odd, because that's what the SNP do time and time again. It's never about the victims, it's always about the perpetrators, because the party is filled with pedos, perps and predators. Anyway, in the space of 24 hours, she's been abused in the street, received a flood of menacing messages by email, and told the Times that the kids were getting upset and I didn't want them to be impacted anymore. I thought it was just best to get away and try and protect them. I'm a mum before anything else, and that was foremost in my thoughts. The very fact that she has to do that goes to show exactly what the SNP are. We've had lots of personal threats. Unfortunately, I think that's where the political discourse has got to in Scotland. Of course it has. This is all a direct result of Nicola Sturgeon and her extremism and her division and her absolute sort of rivening of the state of Scotland into two. You're either with us or you're against us. There's no room for the middle. There's no neutrality. There's no just getting along. It's got to be a war. That's what she's created, and that's what's happened. And of course you get this mental, low intelligence thuggery that comes from these tiny cocks that basically have nothing better to do with their lives. So they get aggressive because they're sad, empty, soulless human beings who feel that aggression is all they have. Again, a direct result of the extremism of the likes of Nicola Sturgeon. She said, oh, sorry, I've just done that. We've had a lot of personal threats, and unfortunately that's where the political discourse has got to in Scotland. Aggression, violence and anger are coupled onto the debate about nationalism. Dr. Cameron was expecting a backlash, but was unprepared for the bitterness on show, with strangers hurling threats and insults, including, I hope someone throws a brick at you in the street, I hope you burn, and you think your health is bad now, wait till you see what abuse and nastiness you're going to have to put up with. Has anyone from the party, the high-ups, the officials, said this is wrong? No, they haven't, because they're probably backing it. Chances are they're pushing it. They're saying, go and do this, because we don't want anyone else to leave. Let's show how bad it is when you choose to leave. Because it's a cult, isn't it? It's an absolute cult. And it's filled with cults. Oh, I'm a letter out there. But anyway, she's been at loggerheads with the majority of the party on many of its progressive policies for years, most notably the hugely controversial reforms that would have been made it much easier to legally change gender in Scotland. Of course, she's a psychologist. She deals with these people all the time. So she knows full well that it isn't gender dysphoria driving that, because it's such a rare event. This is something she deals with. This is just, I want to be different, or I'm a very insecure man, or I'm a very ineffective man. I don't win at things, and I think I'd be better as a woman. And that's all that is. And then when people gainsay, that's fine, you can pretend to be what you like, but you're not actually a woman, and you don't go into women's toilets. They go, meh, 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 and then they get, particularly physical, and aggressive about it, because they're very inadequate, tiny-cocked men. Anyway, she said, I found it to be quite psychologically coercive situation, said Dr. Cameron, who was a clinical psychologist before she was elected to Westminster in 2013. They are always right. If you question, you are wrong and you're isolated. There is a lot of fear and intimidation, and this is what I say about them. This is why they can never change their mind. This is why they can never do the right thing, even when they're told what the right thing is, because they go on a course of action and they're never wrong. And so to change would indicate that they were wrong, and they can't possibly be wrong, and so they have to put and push what they think is right all the way to the nth degree. The powerful and the stupid have something in common, don't they? Rather than changing their views to fit the facts, they change the facts to fit their views. Anyway, she said antidepressants can take the edge off this, but if you're in the same situation, then you can't change how you feel, and you have to look at your environment as being a major cause. And this is talking about her mental health. The split became a chasm in February when she reported complaints from her constituents about the Gender Recognition Reform Bill directly to Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack. She said, I didn't feel able to articulate the argument within the SNP openly because it would provoke even more hostility. And when you've been in a relationship that's bullying, toxic and psychologically coercive, you lose a lot of self-confidence, she said. I've worked with people who are transitioning, and I know that the process can be very difficult for them. I do think it could be streamlined. However, I don't think you can just ignore the concerns of women over safe spaces in terms of safety in prisons and in issues of competitiveness in sport. She's an expert on this. She works with this, and she was telling them this, and they didn't want to hear it because it meant they were wrong. They meant that they had got something wrong and they couldn't change it. And so they pushed it to the nth degree again, as I say, because they had to. Because the Greens, who's the real power of government in Scotland, said, no, this has got to go through. So the SNP, that the obedient little dog it was, wagged its tail and went on with what the Greens were doing, despite it being factually inaccurate and wrong. Despite reports on social media that she still supports independence, Dr. Cameron made it clear she doesn't believe the current administration will be capable of running a country. The current administration aren't capable of running a whelk store. She said, I don't feel the government is being run competently in Scotland. Look around you, love. Of course it isn't. Nearly 17 years of SNP rule and the country's going to rack and ruin. To say everything in the Scottish Parliament is great and everything at Westminster is terrible is just not reality. There comes a point when the dissonance is too much. Well done, her. It's a sad shame she's had to move, but it doesn't surprise me. We all know what the Nats are like. They're thugs, They're dicks, really, aren't they? They're all nasty, mindless, tiny-brained, tiny-cocked, aggressive little shits. Because that's all they have. They know they can never get what they deeply desire. They're frustrated. They're like little children stamping their feet, knowing that the adults in the room look at them and think, what a bunch of pricks you truly are. And I'm coming up. And these are the people that want an independent Scotland so that they can have a society just like that, where you daren't say anything against the party, where the great leader, he utters his words, and the dictator of the Scottish people will always be obeyed, because that's what they are. They don't want anyone gainsaying what they believe, even when the people saying, what they're saying are right. Because even if he's wrong, the leader has spoken. What a bunch of fucking morons. Anyway, it's enough to drive you mad, isn't it? I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do keep tuning in. We've got a couple of stories coming up today, and one of them quite interesting, actually, about sturgeon, which I'll go in. Don't know if it'll be the next one, but maybe the one after that, but soon. Anyway, until then, take care, stay safe. See you on the next video. Lovely talking to you. Goodbye.